Have you ever actually stopped to think about the sheer volume of information surrounding you at this exact second?
Oh, it is completely overwhelming if you really dwell on it.
Right. Like, think about an old analog radio dial. The concept is straightforward, sure, but it is deeply strange when you pause to consider it.
Because of how much we filter out.
Exactly. You turn that physical knob, the static clears, and suddenly you are locked into a specific frequency. You hear the jazz station or the local news broadcast,
Right.
and your brain just completely ignores the fact that there are dozens, maybe hundreds of other stations broadcasting high-definition audio, rock music, sports commentary, whatever.
All happening in that exact same airspace at the exact same time.
Yes, you just cannot hear them because your receiver, like your literal radio, isn't tuned to catch that specific vibration.
It is a really perfect illustration of a profound concept, honestly. The abscess of perception does not equal the absence of reality.
Oh, that is a great way to put it.
Yeah, it is entirely about the mechanical limitations of the receiver. Those other songs are physically vibrating through the air around you. Your equipment simply lacks the configuration to translate those vibrations into something your senses can process.
But okay, what if we scale that metaphor up?
I like where this is going.
What if the receiver isn't just a piece of plastic and metal sitting on your kitchen counter? What if the receiver is human consciousness itself?
That is a massive leap, but a necessary one.
Right. And what if, instead of top 40 hits and morning talk shows, those other frequencies are broadcasting entirely different, fully populated dimensions?
Parallel realities.
Exactly. Today, we are embarking on a deep dive that takes that exact metaphor and just pushes it way past the breaking point. We're exploring the intersection of advanced, rigorous yoga practice, deep meditation, and the literal existence of the spirit world.
But not in a vague, mystical way.
No, not at all. Our source material treats this as mapped-out, traversable physics.
It is a massive topic, and one that inherently challenges the very bedrock of what we consider to be objective reality.
For sure. We're so biased toward our own senses.
Yes. Heavily biased. As human beings, we like to think of our perception as absolute. If we can touch it, see it, or measure it with a machine we built, it is real.
And if we can't, it is just fantasy.
Exactly. But what we are examining today is the possibility that our standard daily human perception is nothing more than, like, the default factory setting of a much more capable biological machine.
Okay, and to anchor this wild exploration, we have an incredibly unique piece of source material.
We do. The life work of Osman.
Yes, Osman, widely known online as the blind Muslim yogi, and context is absolutely everything here.
We have to establish who he is before we get into the claims.
Right, so Osman is a bioenergy healer on a master level. He has telepathic healing capabilities using the principles of quantum entanglement, and he actually specializes in critical care, recovery, and terminal illnesses.
And he has been doing this for a very long time.
50 years. He's been practicing healing as well as advanced yoga and meditation for 50 years. He attained his first samadhi, which is this profound ultimate state of meditative consciousness, by the age of 19.
Which is incredibly rare.
Super rare. And he has studied extensively from schools of thought across the Far East, the Middle East, and the West.
But here is the most crucial detail for you listening right now.
The timeline of his blindness.
Exactly. Osman is known as the blind Muslim yogi. But you have to remember that he has only been permanently blind since May of 2023.
Right, that is a very recent transition.
So when he describes these highly visual, complex, multidimensional phenomena in his videos, it is because he had normal eyesight for almost his entire life prior to May 2023.
That timeline is absolutely vital context. It means his spatial awareness, his understanding of light and color, they are all grounded in the same visual reality you and I share.
He isn't working from a lifelong absence of sight.
No, he is mapping anomalous visual data onto a lifetime of normal visual experience. Exactly. And his claims are striking. He speaks of daily lived experiences with higher frequencies, telepathic communication, the mechanics of a multidimensional universe.
And he teaches a lot of this.
He does. His mission is to encourage people into a scientific, result-based, simplified methodology derived from ancient yoga sciences. And he offers so much for free, like his 5-minute yoga and meditation program, available for download at yogawellness786.com.
And his YouTube channel is packed with free, extensive advice.
Yeah, he doesn't withhold information there. But today, we are strictly focusing on the mechanics of his reality. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because right away, the central tension of his narrative just hits you in the face. Are these vivid, multidimensional encounters purely a product of the mind, like a highly complex psychological phenomenon?
Or are they genuine, literal glimpses into parallel realities existing alongside ours?
Right. And what hooked me is that Osman doesn't act like some untouchable guru floating in a cloud.
He is incredibly grounded about it.
He actively confronts the most uncomfortable question head on. When his third eye matured and he started seeing entities invisible to everyone else in the room, his immediate internal reaction wasn't spiritual awe.
No, his first question was clinical.
He literally asked himself, am I suffering from psychosis? Do I have schizophrenia?
Which is the exact reaction any rational person would have.
Right. If your best friend says they are watching holographic entities walk through your wall, your first instinct is not awe. It is to find a neurologist. Modern society trains us to pathologize the unexplainable.
And probably for good evolutionary reasons.
Sure. But Osman says he evaluated himself. He said, possibly yes. But then he looked at his life and concluded he wasn't mentally ill because every other aspect of his life was thriving. His successful businesses, his responsible parenting, his social relationships.
He defines mental illness clinically.
Right, but I want to push back a little for the skeptic listening. Is being a good dad or having money a valid metric for sanity? I mean, Wall Street is full of high-functioning individuals who might be completely detached from reality.
That is a very fair point. High functionality doesn't automatically equal perfect mental health. However, this raises an important question about how psychiatry actually defines these disorders.
How do they define it?
Well, Osman is leaning on a very specific functional definition. In psychiatry, for a psychological phenomenon to be classified as a disorder, like severe psychosis, it has to cause clinically significant distress or impairment.
Oh,
It has to impair your occupational, social, or personal functioning. Osman's point isn't just, I'm rich, so I'm sane.
right.
His point is holistic. He evaluated his health, his communication, his finances, his family dynamics. Because none of those foundational pillars were degrading, he concluded this background program wasn't a pathology.
It wasn't a disease eating his mind.
Exactly. It was an expansion of his perception. You see this kind of debate pop up in a lot of psychology deep dives, like on the Mel Robbins podcast when she had Dr. Tara Swart on to discuss neuroplasticity.
Oh, I remember that one.
Right. They talked about how the brain can radically rewire itself, and sometimes what looks like an anomaly is actually the brain functioning at a higher, more adapted capacity. Or even on Huberman Lab when Dr. Sam Harris was on.
Yes, discussing meditation and consciousness.
Exactly. They discussed how advanced meditation fundamentally alters the default mode network of the brain. It changes your baseline reality without breaking your ability to function.
Okay, so the distinction really is the degradation of function. If we look at consciousness like a computer's operating system, you have your standard programs running.
The parenting app, the business spreadsheet.
Right, and those are working flawlessly. Then suddenly, this massive background program starts running, flooding the system with unrecognizable data.
Society screams malware.
But if the operating system isn't slowing down, maybe it is not a virus at all. Maybe it is just a vastly superior pre-installed application that the user finally unlocked.
Precisely. And this leads to a broader cultural critique Osman makes about science. He points out that the current social environment naturally resists things that cannot be seen with the naked eye.
It threatens our comfort zones.
It threatens the neat boxes we put reality into. It is easier to say someone has a brain chemistry imbalance than to admit the universe is infinitely more complex than our five senses can detect.
But Osman actually brings science into the mix. He points to an instrument developed in China in the mid-'80s designed to calculate and measure ki or prana.
Yes, the subtle life force energy.
Right, and for anyone listening, we should clarify. Ki or prana in yogic tradition isn't magic dust. It is described as a fundamental bioenergetic force permeating all living things.
And Osman claims this Chinese instrument actually worked. It measured this energy. But it wasn't embraced by the global scientific community.
Which makes me wonder why. If someone built a machine that proved an invisible energy field, why isn't it in every physics classroom?
It is a paradigm issue. Osman argues that current science belongs to this physical dimension, so it struggles to measure lighter frequencies.
Right, because the tools are made of heavy matter.
Exactly. But there is also a psychological barrier. We see this discussed a lot by Andrew Huberman. In his deep dive with Dr. Matthew Walker on sleep, they talk about how hard it was for science to even accept the complex mechanics of dreams.
Let alone parallel dimensions.
Exactly. But Osman points to modern university experiments that are cracking this foundation, specifically studies involving DMT.
Right, DMT is an incredibly powerful psychedelic. But wait, isn't DMT just a chemical disruption? How does studying hallucinations prove higher frequencies?
That is the big debate right now.
Yeah.
Institutions like Johns Hopkins are looking into this. The traditional view is that DMT causes the brain to misfire, but the alternative hypothesis, which Osman aligns with, is the receptor theory.
The reducing valve concept.
Yes, the idea that the human brain deliberately filters out the vast majority of cosmic information so we can just survive and cross the street.
Right, so we don't get hit by a bus while staring at an aura.
Exactly. And DMT temporarily removes that filter. It doesn't create the entities, it just lets you see what is always in the room. This was covered so well on the Joe Rogan deep dive with Rick Strassman.
Oh, the spirit molecule guy.
Yes, Strassman's research showed that multiple unconnected people were experiencing the exact same alternative dimensions and entities.
Which suggests an objective location.
Right. Rogan also had Paul Stamets on, talking about mycelium networks as a form of consciousness,
Right.
or Duncan Trussell discussing the spiritual realms.
It all points to the idea that the receiver is just tuned to a narrow band.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we accept Osman's pragmatic baseline, that he is highly functioning and accurately interpreting data, we have to look at the map he drew of this unseen world.
And the architecture she describes is staggering.
It is so specific. He doesn't just say there's a spirit world. He gives us the address. He claims there are broadly 114 portals leading to multiverses and dimensions that can be interacted with.
114 distinct channels on the dial.
Yes. And just when you wrap your head around that, he casually adds that there are an additional 99 dimensions that are entirely inconceivable.
They exist completely outside human logic or geometry.
You can't even hold the concept in your mind. This reminds me of reading Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi, where he talks about the vastness of cosmic consciousness.
Or the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. The precision of Osman's numbers implies a universe of immense structured order.
And the mechanism for accessing this architecture is wild. He explains that rigorous yoga and meditation isn't just for stress relief.
No, it is literal training
Yeah.
to hack the dimensional structure.
Right, the portals aren't in deep space. They are mapped directly onto the human subtle anatomy, the chakras.
This changes everything about how we view chakras.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. In pop spirituality, chakras are just glowing orbs you unblock to have a good Tuesday.
Right, to feel a bit more relaxed.
But Osman describes them as biological modems. He says from the 7 major chakras, you activate a specific portal depending on the level of reality you want to visit.
If you want to interact with heart frequency entities, you intensely focus on the heart chakra.
Yes, you lock on to that frequency, and the physical room you were sitting in literally disappears from your perception. It is replaced by the reality of that chakra.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the radio dial metaphor. You punch in channel 15 via the heart chakra, and the sensory feed changes.
But, and this is crucial, he introduces the concept of being rooted.
Yes, the root chakra tether.
He explains that even when your consciousness has completely shifted to a different frequency, you are still anchored to this physical world via your root chakra.
Think of it as the grounding wire in an electrical circuit. It keeps your consciousness tethered to the biological hardware.
Exactly. Like strapping on a fully immersive VR headset. Your vision and hearing are 100% in an alien landscape, but your physical feet are still feeling the carpet.
Though he does mention advanced practitioners can relinquish that hold on the root chakra to leave the body completely.
Which sounds incredibly dangerous.
It does, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, the philosophical implications are monumental.
How so?
Well, if our current reality is merely the channel our root chakra happens to be tuned to by default, then everything we prioritize, our money, politics, science, it is not the absolute truth of existence.
Right, it is just the local programming.
Exactly. The desk you sit at, the sky you see, it is just the default broadcast. The Ranveer show actually did a deep dive on this exact concept with Sadhguru.
Oh, I saw that.
They went deep into how the chakras are literally gateways to different dimensions of experience. And Beer Biceps, Ranveer, also talked to Gar Gopal Das about how the mind perceives purpose through these different lenses.
And Dr. Vasant Lad discussing Ayurveda and Prana on that same show, it all aligns with this idea that the body is just a vessel for these energies.
Exactly. Or even on Buddha at the gas pump, Rick Archer's deep dive with Bernardo Kastrup on analytic idealism.
Oh, Kastrup is brilliant.
Right. He argues that consciousness is fundamental, and the physical world is just an appearance. Osman is basically providing the practical yoga manual for Kastrup's philosophy.
It completely reframes human potential. If access to these 114 dimensions is pre-installed hardware, it means we are walking around with a cosmic supercomputer in our pockets, and we are only using it to play solitaire.
That is exactly it.
It implies that his rigorous 18-hour-a-day meditative practices weren't just about becoming calmer. They were the user manual for operating the human consciousness vehicle.
And once he establishes this map, he begins to populate it. He describes the inhabitants of these frequencies.
The entities.
Right. When he attunes to higher frequencies, he encounters what he calls light bodies.
And again, remember his visual baseline. He had normal eyesight almost his whole life. He describes these entities as luminous, like sparks of light or halos.
He specifically compares them to holograms.
Right, they're living conscious entities, but you could physically pass your hand right through them. They lack physical density.
But the visual description isn't the most mind-blowing part.
No, it is how they communicate. The multidimensional telepathy.
He says they do not communicate with language. No syntax, no sentences.
He describes it as a split-second download. He literally uses the phrase, like 2 terabytes of information in a second,
The entity just drops the data into him.
instantly granting knowledge of complex concepts that would normally take decades to explain.
What is fascinating here is how this exposes the severe limitations of human biology. Our daily communication is painfully slow.
So slow. Look at us right now.
Exactly. I have an abstract thought. I encode it into English. I push air from my lungs to vibrate my vocal cords.
The vibration travels through the air.
Your ear catches it, turns it into an electrical signal, and your brain decodes it. There is massive latency.
Imagine trying to explain quantum mechanics using that method. It takes textbooks and years of study. But Osman experiences the entity bypassing the biological bottleneck entirely.
They drop the complete conceptual package directly into his consciousness in a millisecond.
But I have to ask, how does the human brain physically survive that?
That is the real question.
If I am at a loud restaurant and 3 people talk to me, my brain gets overwhelmed. How do you process 2 terabytes of telepathic data without your neural pathways melting down?
Well, it suggests that when the mind operates at these higher frequencies, it is no longer using the biological brain as the primary processor.
Oh, interesting.
The brain is linear. It does one thing after another. But consciousness in this model is conceptual and immediate.
So true knowledge isn't a process of learning over time.
Exactly. It is a process of sudden, complete resonance. You don't read the data. Your energetic frequency simply aligns with the knowledge, and you become instantly aware of it.
You don't learn, you just know. Lewis Howes explored this a bit on the School of Greatness with Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
They talk about how when people heal themselves or have these mystical moments, it isn't an intellectual process. It is a sudden, full-body knowing.
Or his episode with Michael Singer, author of The Untethered Soul. The idea that pure consciousness doesn't think, it just observes and knows.
Right. And Jay Shetty touched on similar monk mindsets on that show, too.
It is a universal thread in these advanced states.
But Osman is very clear that this multiverse isn't just populated by helpful glowing holograms.
No, there is a vertical scale of frequencies.
And some vibrate much lower than the standard human physical level. His descriptions of these lower entities are genuinely chilling.
He describes them as frightening, auras that evoke the visceral terror of a horror movie.
And he pinpoints an undeniable physical sensation that accompanies them. An icy chill.
Yes. You don't even need to see it to know what it is.
You just feel its energy, and this icy chill hits you. It warns you that you are in the presence of a dense, potentially harmful being, and I want the listener to really reflect on this.
We have all felt it.
Right. Have you ever walked into an empty room or stood next to a specific person on the street and felt a sudden, unexplainable, icy chill drop down your spine? A primal gut feeling screaming at you to get out.
We almost always rationalize it away. A draft, anxiety, a drop in blood sugar.
But in Osman's framework, that chill is a literal, actionable data point. But what is the physics of a ghost giving you the chills?
If we look at it through thermodynamics applied to subtle energy, heat is generated by rapid vibration.
Right, movement.
Higher frequencies vibrate incredibly fast. They are light and warm. Lower frequencies vibrate slowly. They are dense and heavy.
So when your aura, which is vibrating at a normal human frequency, brushes up against a dense entity.
It acts as an energetic heat sink. It literally leaches the energetic warmth from you.
Wow.
Your intuition translates that drop in vibrational speed as a physical chill. It is an evolutionary defense mechanism.
A spiritual defense mechanism.
Exactly. The Yogi Gopi Krishna wrote extensively about this.
The Kundalini guy.
Right. In his autobiographical accounts of awakening, he described terrifying physical sensations when his energy engaged with lower frequencies. And Dr. Bonnie Greenwell's clinical research on Kundalini awakenings mirrors this perfectly. The physical body reacts violently to dense energetic encounters.
Which highlights that this unseen world is not a safe playground.
It is an ecosystem with real hazards.
Which explains what happened to Osman when his clairaudience opened up.
The ability to physically hear the voices.
Right. He says it became genuinely overwhelming. Because once these entities realize your receiver is tuned to their station, they swarm you.
They crowd around.
He describes a state where he couldn't manage his businesses, his family, his daily life, while trying to process the deafening noise of alternative worlds. It threatened the very balance that proved his sanity in the first place.
So he made a choice.
He consciously chose to close the door. He restricted his own perception. He says he can still catch whispers if he focuses, but he actively chooses not to.
Which takes incredible discipline. Seriously, imagine having a direct line to the universe and putting it on silent.
But before he shut it down, he did observe something profound: the mechanisms of death.
And this opens up the most unsettling, paradigm-shifting segment of his philosophy, his description of the afterlife.
It is deeply disruptive to traditional narratives.
It flipped my understanding on its head. Usually, we are sold a binary narrative. You die, go toward the light, face judgment, and end up in heaven or hell.
Place A or place B.
Right. But Osman says it is far more complex. The dead enter different frequencies based on their own internal resonance at the moment of death. But here's the part that stopped me.
The dream state.
He claims that the vast majority of people who die enter a localized dream state, and they absolutely do not know they are dead.
It is a staggering assertion. The transition is so seamless, the consciousness simply hallucinates a continuation of its life.
The mind constructs a vivid dream reality. They go to a phantom job, interact with memory constructs of friends.
They are living in a self-generated loop. It makes rest in peace sound tragic. They aren't resting. They're trapped in a simulation built by their unexamined subconscious.
This maps so well onto Andrew Huberman's deep dive with Dr. Matthew Walker on dreams, but taken to a cosmic extreme.
How so?
Walker explains how the dreaming brain constructs entire, coherent realities while completely paralyzed. Osman is saying that mechanism continues without the biological brain, sustained by the subtle body.
Wow.
Or Stephen Bartlett's deep dive on Diary of a CEO with Mo Godot.
The former Google X officer.
Right. Mo talks extensively about how reality is an equation the brain solves. If the brain is gone but the consciousness equation remains, it just keeps rendering a reality.
And Osman says he can actually visit these individuals. He projects his awareness into their frequency and infiltrates their localized dream state.
Like the movie Inception.
Literally. He sees what they are dreaming. They don't know they're dead, but he is fully lucid. He enjoys their company, and eventually they get used to his presence and might draw each other into shared spaces.
But he issues a stark warning about entering these unknown frequencies.
Because it is not just populated by dreaming humans.
No, it is inhabited by entities possessing intelligence that vastly dwarfs human capacity.
And their primary tool is deception.
This is where it becomes a cautionary tale. A spiritual seeker who opens these portals without grounding is incredibly vulnerable. These entities read human desires perfectly.
For manipulation and energetic feeding.
Exactly. A traveler could spend a lifetime exploring these dimensions, receiving these massive telepathic downloads, believing they are interacting with angels or spirit guides.
And the terrifying part is, Osman says the deception is so perfect you might not realize you were manipulated until the exact moment of your biological death.
Because only then are the biological filters permanently removed.
Imagine the horror. You spend 40 years dedicated to a high-dimensional being of light. You die, the veil lifts, and you realize you were a battery in a game you didn't know you were playing.
It forces a reevaluation of human history.
How much of our ancient folklore, our religious dogmas, our mystical visions that sparked wars, might actually be the result of untrained humans stumbling into the wrong frequency?
Being played by a superior intelligence.
Right. Spiritual exploration isn't a curated theme park. It is a dark wilderness with apex predators. Rainn Wilson touched on this a bit in his Soul Boom deep dives.
With Reza Aslan.
Yes, discussing how religion structures these mystical encounters to protect people, and also his episode with Rupert Spira on non-duality, where they talk about the illusions of the mind.
Or Dr. Lisa Miller discussing the psychology of spirituality. It is a treacherous landscape. The great mystic Ramakrishna constantly warned his disciples about the allure of lower occult powers.
He warned against getting distracted by those middle realms, which leads us to the ultimate paradox of Osman's testimony.
The culmination of 50 years of intense practice.
Let's review his resume. He practiced up to 18 hours a day. Currently he practices a minimum of 8 to 10 hours a day just sharpening the sword.
The dedication is immense.
He mapped 114 dimensions. He receives telepathic data dumps. He walks through the dreams of the dead. He has the ultimate superpower. And what does he do with it?
He locks the door and walks away.
He actively chooses not to focus on it. He says, I stick to my current world. His focus is entirely terrestrial.
He channels his energy into his bioenergy healing practice.
Right, and his healing is incredibly specialized. He uses quantum entanglement for critical care and terminal illnesses. And due to his high success rate and the sheer volume of energy he maintains, his premium healing consultations are not inexpensive.
They are premium level services. But we have to emphasize, as Osman does, his healing is complementary.
Yes, it is strictly complementary. It enhances whatever is lacking in other fields, but it is not a replacement for traditional medical treatment. People must consult their doctors.
Absolutely.
But while the direct healing is premium, he is deeply committed to giving away massive value for free. His overarching mission is to simplify these complex sciences.
Which is why his YouTube channel is a free service with extensive advice.
He doesn't withhold anything there. And there is that free 5-minute yoga and meditation program available at yogawellness786.com. He also has a Patreon for online lessons and one-to-ones, but the core knowledge is free.
But returning to that paradox, why would someone who can travel the multiverse choose to just run a business and be with his family?
Right. If I had the keys to a spaceship, I wouldn't go back to filing my taxes. But it adds massive credibility.
He isn't selling exclusive spirit world tours.
If he were a grifter, he would claim to be the mouthpiece for the Galactic Federation and charge thousands to tell you what aliens think of you.
Instead, he advocates for grounded, present moment living.
He says, I make my heaven and hell in this world now, living in the now. He believes in a hereafter, but he says heaven and hell are just varying degrees of dimensional frequencies.
Obsessing over which frequency you will tune into after death robs you of the present moment.
Tony Robbins talks about this constantly.
Living in the present state.
Right. Or Deepak Chopra, the idea that the only true reality is the present awareness. Or Stephen Bartlett's deep dive with Wim Hof about commanding the physical body in the cold to anchor the mind in the now.
Or the Mel Robbins deep dive with Dr. Amy Shah on optimizing your physical energy. Mel also talked with Gabrielle Bernstein about spirituality, and the consensus is always to ground yourself in this physical reality.
The physical body is exactly where human consciousness is supposed to be deployed right now. It is the anti-escapist approach to spirituality.
It is profound wisdom.
So to summarize this incredible journey, we examine the line between mystical experience and psychological pathology.
Grounded by his holistic, functional success.
We looked at the 114 traversable portals accessed through the biological modems of the chakras.
And the distinction between human language and multidimensional telepathy.
The terrifying ecosystem of dense entities emitting that icy chill. The deeply unsettling concept of the afterlife as a self-generated dream state.
The risk of cosmic deception.
And finally, his highly disciplined choice to restrict his perception and remain planted in the physical world.
Using his mastery for bioenergetic healing and teaching.
And a quick reminder, Osman's resources, including his free teachings and that 5-minute meditation program, are at yogawellness786.com. This entire exploration really challenges us to look at our own perception.
To wonder what else is broadcasting in the room with us.
Exactly. And as we leave you today, I want you to mull over one final provocative thought. We spent all this time discussing Osman's claim that we are connected to these dimensions via our chakras, and that higher entities communicate via instantaneous telepathic data downloads.
A sudden influx of pure knowledge.
Right. So think about your own daily life. Think about those sudden, inexplicable aha moments you experience.
A massive burst of inspiration.
A crystal clear resolution to a problem you've agonized over for months. A flash of creative brilliance in the shower that feels like it came from nowhere.
We are trained to think those are just random biological neurons firing.
But what if they aren't? What if your root chakra, just for a fraction of a millisecond, slipped its tuning and locked onto a higher frequency? The next time you have a brilliant, life-changing idea seemingly out of thin air, ask yourself, did I actually think of this or did I just download it?